Hello everyone, and welcome back to Bracket Breakdown. I am Nick North, a big boy with big feelings, and I am excited to be back to talk about Part 5 of the biggest Super Sentai tournament ever. If you haven't been around here before, this is basically where we take every single villain from Power Rangers or Super Sentai and match them up one by one until there is only one left standing, looking at them from, of course, a design standpoint. If you don't know what I'm talking about and would like to get caught up, there are 4 other parts on this here YouTube channel. And either way, I'm getting a good amount of views, which is awesome. And here is the cringy YouTube reminder to like and subscribe, because we're all gonna be here for a while, and I think you would really hate to miss out on a part if you're not subscribed. So, this one is out a little bit faster than the last one was, but still not as fast as I would have hoped it would have been, because unemployment sucks. But we're not at the stage of content creation where you care about my personal life yet, so we're just going to get right into the tournament. So, starting off with match 401, the Gurzel versus Island Ninja Giri Giri Gaishi. And it's the first match of this video, and it's a mollusk mashup. And I must say, the Gurzel is disgusting to look at. Giri Giri Gaishi has not only a fun name to say, I encourage you all at home to try, but also has some pretty cool snail design on top of that. And if you've watched even one of my videos before, you know that not being flesh-colored normally gives you extra points when you're compared to a disgusting flesh-colored beast. So Giri Giri Gaishi will be winning. For match 402, we have Sonoe versus Satan Egos, and Sonoe is that boy. I love, love, love the blue and silver, and the way it's all done is just immaculate to look at. That specific color of blue is so appealing to me. I know there's a lot of shades of blue, but for example, this one behind me, not my favorite. The one that Sonoe has, it's really great. Just amazing job overall on him. Satan Egos, I feel a little bit bad for. He's in a little bit of a rough spot because his whole thing is being the secretive backroom antagonist who you don't even really see that much, kind of like a Mr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. But to my knowledge, he has never had a huge face reveal. So this is really all we see, which is a silhouetted man. And it's not going to be enough here, especially not against Sonoe. So, Sonoe wins. So, for match 403, we have Shovel Kong versus Transmission Brain. And Shovel Kong is another one that I think is, surprisingly well done for what it is, being just a gorilla with a shovel. I like the little details all over his body, and they just make it a lot more intricate than the basic design concept. Transmission Brain looks like the Snot villain from Codename Kids Next Door, which, by the sound of my voice, probably sounds like I've been attacked by that villain. In addition, it just looks pretty nasty. I'm not really a big fan. Not overall bad, but not good enough to beat this Kong, who is in application to join the DK family. So, match 404, Firebrain versus Sneak Brothers. Now, normally, as you can probably tell by my hair and my general aesthetic, I'm a big fan of fire monsters, but this one just isn't doing it for me. I think the overall, roundness of his design and the lackluster use of fire are the main detractors for me. The Sneak Brothers are an elite spy duo, and they're both really cool. I like how the younger brother is rocky and metal at the same time, and I really like the design of the older brother as a whole. I think the spike ball aesthetic is really sick. Either way, they sneak into the next round. Match 405, Gigara versus Hamiga Killer. And at this point, I don't think I have to say how much I don't like teeth monsters. There's never a good reason for one. So Hamiga Killer is gonna lose, especially because his design isn't helping that at all. He almost looks like he got pooped on by a bird, which is really unfortunate. Gigara basically wins by default, looking like a dopey idiot, but I like him enough to move him on to the second round. For match 406, we have Chikyuki versus Sledge, and Sledge is another one where his role in the show of being a bumbling, idiotic villain is a great fit for the design he has, but overall, I don't think it really matches up to the rest of his season. I think part of that is because he's an American-only villain. I think if you showed someone who isn't super familiar with Power Rangers a slideshow of the main villains from Dino Charge or Super Dino Charge and asked them to pick out who the big bad from this season is, they probably wouldn't pick Sledge. They would probably pick Fury, maybe Heckle. Chikyuki works pretty well being a globe, and I like the little hive underside of the globe. It kind of provides an air of horror almost. Chikyuki wins, but by a slim margin. Match 407, Zolti versus Yokai Amikiri. And Zolti is such a funny looking little guy, and I love that for him, but we all know he's not gonna win. Amikiri is a fun look as a multi-tool knife. Even having the little keychain part, I think that's really clever. I think that's really fun. Amikiri moves on. Match 408, Santara versus Beatamalar. And Santara is admittedly the queen of it's just a guy, or in this case, a girl in clothes. That type of villain, that we see a lot. Especially because her actual Void Queen design that she eventually gets given is ripped from somebody else that is also in the tournament, so I can't use that here. But even she is serving more than Beatamalar. I like the head design on him, but everything else is a joke, basically. He's marble themed, although it doesn't really look like that is the case, based on a lot of the design choices they made. Either way, Santara wins, but I hate to break it to the Santara fans out there. I wouldn't get super comfortable. Match 409, Enreira versus Picture Book Boma. I like both of these designs, but the smoke-like theming of Enreira isn't as well done as I would have liked, possibly because of the picture quality. That's unfortunately the disadvantage that a lot of these older shows have. Picture Book Boma could use a bit of polish, but the details and the cool use of book structure to make its different articles of clothing is really nice to look at. I think that takes a certain creative eye. So Picture Book Boma pulls out the win. Match 410, Goku Goku Maru versus Tank Brain. And Goku Goku Maru is from Go-Onger /RPM. It looks like it could easily fit into one of the more Japanese-centric seasons, though. Level of intricacy in its design isn't really something that you see in the Bankai faction, and I think that's to Gokumaru's credit. I think he looks really nice. Tank Brain has the same basic idea as Octillery or an Octorok, but done much less well, at least from what I can tell from the image. Goku Goku Maru wins. Match 411, Princess Archerina versus Inugami Boma. And in a different world, I could easily see Inugami Boma as a sick-looking Digimon. I like how wide he is, but our pretty Princess Archerina is the clear winner. She married into the Machine Empire and has a weapon and design that could honestly be a Pink Ranger by itself. Archerina wins. I just love her so much. Match 412, Confrontation Beast Pig Fist Taboo versus Bara Cactus 2. My memory have its limits, so I don't know if it's the very first, but this might be the first Confrontation Beast loss. I love pigs and I love boars, but there's just something so icky about this one. I don't like how a lot of the detailing has to do with the meat products of a pig. It's not my favorite. it's more pig guts from that saw trap than Wilbur on the farm, and the ham hock legs aren't helping very much. Bara Cactus 2 gets points for not just being a traditional American cactus while still clearly being a cactus. I think the camo theming is really great for what it's kind of going for. So in this case, Bara Cactus 2 wins. Match 413, Muddled Boma versus Armor Snake. And Muddled Boma has something kind of appealing about it. It's based off of the same makeup theming as Jinx from Pokemon, which I think speaks for itself. Anyway, I think there are a lot of things I like about her, but it's not as cool as Armor Snake. I mean, even the name is much better. He has the nice like blue, red, and black, and I'm always gonna love the like armor based on animals idea. So Armor Snake wins. Match 414, Sister versus Dream Vision Saima Beast Bahamut. So here's a little bit of lore for you. When the white Sneak brother dies, the like bigger one, the older one latches on to the sister, who will be judged as a separate monster because of the way that this tournament is designed. And given that they just have short shorts and a headband, it's not going to be enough to beat Bahamut, who, for such a simple seeming design, is executed really well. I love Tiger Stripes, obviously, but the dark, like, purple-brown combo is such a good touch with that as well. Really good use of color design. Bahamut wins. Match 415, Samajikogen versus Nagaraboshi. So when I first saw Samajikogen, I thought it was the shark monster because of Same, and it looks like a shark monster. But it's actually the shark monster from that season mixed with the antlion monster from that season for some fucking reason. And honestly, that's the biggest attractor, is that it has like a weird antlion monster popping out of its belly. Nagaraboshi is the third and final of the dinosaur apocalypse monsters that we've seen. This one is based on the meteor. And it's all like the little details of the impact, the smoke, the belt that is planets, that takes the win for it for me. Because Samajikogen just fucking lost, in my opinion. He fumbled the bag. Match 416, Godai Dogler versus Spider Canth. And Godai Dogler is one of the better Doglers. I'll give you that. He's based on a suit of armor, but it's just not good enough, and the lighting does not help his case. Spider Canth looks like a Zoid in the absolute best ways. The articulation of all of the limbs to like look like an actual pouncing spider is so good. Spider Canth thwips into the next round. Match 417, Angler Mozu versus Tana Banta. And, like, bro, Angler Mozu, back up. Like, is he trying to eat the camera? Either way, I don't care. He loses. Tana Banta is themed after a star festival. And I like the spear and corn vibes all over him. I think that's fun. And he will be winning in this match. Match 418, Bakaneko versus Debo Akitamon. And Bakaneko isn't a bad design. It's just kind of boring, honestly. Akitamon is the autumn-based Debo monster. And I like that no matter where you look at on him, you'll see autumn theming and an attention to detail that is just really spectacular. Akitamon falls into the winner's circle. Match 419, Mole Nezare versus the Zeggle. And the Zeggle is another one where the image isn't doing it justice, I think, based on, like, the shaky Bigfoot vibes of it. Mole Nezare has this nice-looking fur design that looks soft, and then, like, contrasting with that are the big metallic parts that help with digging to combine to make like a cute and also ferocious looking monster, which when you have a mole, I think is like the proper way to go about it. Molnezere wins. Match 420, Bara Goblin versus Gamaro Dogler. And this isn't the first thing I would think of when I think of a goblin, but it is a fantastic design overall. It's a Bara monster, so it has like that kind of metallic armoring. When you combine that with the specific shade of green and the monstrous design elements, I think it's the obvious winner here. I was even feeling bad for Doglers. I was like, I mentioned how bad their faction is a lot, whatever. And then Gamaro Dogler comes in here and just decided to remind me how much they can suck sometimes and lose the match. So that sucks for him, but Bara Goblin moves on. Match 421, Handorian Decho versus Gigi. And there's something about the sheer amount of confidence this man has when just wearing human clothes. And it's both impressive and also too much. Like, he's almost giving, like, pickup artist vibes a little bit. Gigi is a little robotic parrot to the space pirate empire, and honestly, that's enough in this very specific case to win him the match. Match 422, Yokai Fudageshi versus Battle Megas. And now, hear me out. I know that it's just a painting in a 2D space. I'm aware. But it's so well executed, and the fact that you can flip it and it's another face, I think is really smart. I can kind of see how it would work in the actual show. Battle Megas is like one or two design choices away from being really awesome. I think a brighter color would have helped. I think a different face / upper body would really help. Sometimes you can just win by being a painting, and in this case, Yokai Fudageshi is one of them. Match 423, Yokai Mataneko versus Rancic. So on one hand, we have Yokai Mataneko, which is a twin of Yokai Nekomata. And the downside of that is that we've already seen Nekomata, and so Mataneko isn't doing as much in terms of like being appealing and different. Rancic, on the other hand, is certified daddy material. I mean, there's been a good amount of daddies in Power Rangers, don't get me wrong. Hi, Tarek, my king. And Rancic is high up there. So he wins. Match 424, Basilisk Minosaur versus the Gitan. And Basilisk Minosaur is just so nice to look at. It has like a lanky body and very aquatic vibes. I think that all is really appealing. The Gitan isn't bad, but it's a bit simple. And at the end of the day, I just like Basilisk Minosaur more. I think he has more to offer. And so, yeah, I think he wins this round. Match 425, Metal Megas versus Akyanba. And Metal Megas has a very basic design. And what I mean by that is that it's not poorly done at all. It's obviously like well put together, but it's just not very exciting to me. Like, it feels like it's the basic form and they add other stuff onto it. It's just like a big, like, mask presenting robot. Akyanba, on the other hand, has a more interesting overall vibe. I like that dark maroon and the bright pink together. It's a color combo I didn't know I needed. And so Akyanba will win. Match 426, Dugon Manatee versus Mask of Darkness Carantula. And Carantula has such a cool look to him, but mostly like from the neck up. The two masks, the wings, the covered face, all very good. Once you get to the bottom half, it loses me a little bit. Dugon Manatee, however, with his great name, has a lot more variety and appeal just all over his body. The spines, the ship parts, the actual manatee parts, all combined to make another very nice gangler monster. So Dugon wins. Match 427, Darupada of the Meteor versus Fireball Monster. You know, if I asked you to guess which one of these is the Fireball Monster, it probably wouldn't be the right one. Darupada of the Meteor is honestly doing all of the work in this matchup. I think Fireball Monster kind of lost it for himself. The detailing of the fiery bits on Darupita is so nice to look at. Meanwhile, the actual fireball monster looks like a loser and is not deserving of the name. So Darupita wins. Match 428, Mara versus Dimensional Ninja Futabutobu. Mara is, of course, the sister of Capri, who we've seen previously, and the niece of Lothor, who is yet to show up. She is bee-themed, and it's, like, really close. But I'm going to give her the win over Futabutobu because he's a little, like, all over the place and doesn't really have the same, like, unifying elements that kind of make a kind of gestalt vibe about Mara. So she'll be winning. Match 429, Troll Minosaur versus Earth Imperial Commander Baraba. And now that we're back to the Gold Star players, Troll Minosaur is really awesome to look at. With the mountain from top to bottom. But what's really, like, next level and interesting about him is the zipper that he's, like, coming out of. I think that's a really smart design choice to talk about trolls from mythology. Baraba is kind of basic in comparison. Not bad by any means, but he has an egg head and green lipstick, which I love for him. Reapply them at home, loser. Because Troll Minosaur wins. Match 430, Kunks Butler McCaptain versus Diving Beetle Evo. And besides Kunks having an awful name to pronounce, he does the skunk thing relatively well. I like the nozzle fingers because it automatically implies the way that he attacks. And on the other side, we have Diving Beetle Evo, who is a bit more, like, muted color-wise. And I hate that stuff. I love bright colors, contrast, all of that. So Kunks is going to win. Match 431, the Zeragil versus Venane. And the 5 faces and big foot fur are good points for Zeragil. But other than that, I'm not seeing a ton of uniqueness here. Venane is a good example, I think, of using a bright color rather than a muddled one, like we were talking about last round, because you get to see a lot more details on the outfit, and the jade blue is really good for contrasty elements. So Venane wins. Match 432, Kurara versus Dayarl. And I'm definitely not, like, the biggest design expert in the world, but I do like to think about character design quite a lot. And with Dayarl, my question is, how would one make half of your body and your main weapon the same material, but different than the rest of your body? Just from, like, a logistics perspective. Like, if it's your armor, then cover your whole body with it. Why are you leaving half of it exposed? And if it's not, then that's just kind of incongruent logically. Anyway, the big tank boy wins. Match 433, Furious Demon God Guy versus Nendo Gami. And Furious Demon God Guy is lion-based and has some really fun, like, architectural green flame that is very, like, traditionally ancient, which I think is really cool. I like how it's combined with the metal armor. In general, I really like the Ashu tribe monsters. And on the other hand of, like, the Operation Overdrive factions, Nendo Gami, much like his brethren, can be sometimes hard to discern what exactly it is. And that one plagues this guy pretty hard. So Guy will be winning. Match 434, Trinoid 14, Haimitsu versus Great Boma Emperor Lagorn. And Haimitsu really put up a good attempt here. I like the pine tree and the beetle vibes. I think it's actually a really great combo for this. They're really great to look at. But with the lighting and honestly, like, really well executed, detailed design, Lagorn is going to take it in this case. Match 435, Hades Wise Goddess Sphinx versus Magma Dobler. Sphinx is one of the 10 gods from Magic Ranger, and she's the wisest one and has really simplistic design, which is nice enough in this case, and enough to win against Magma Dobler, who is just impossible to figure out what's going on here. Match 436, Meshiu Bain-Dever versus Doron. Do I want to give the win to Meshiu Bain-Dever? No, because I can barely say it at all. He looks exactly like the other ones, but with like some gold plating, maybe. But like Doron doesn't give me a choice. He looks like hot garbage. So the win is gonna go to Meshiu Bain-Dever. Match 437, Tenchion Sirogar versus Tea Kettle Monger. And it's another Deca Ranger guy who thinks that his charisma and a suit is good enough to win this competition. And unfortunately, like most annoying guys in suits, it is not doing anything but pissing me off. I like that Tea Kettle Monger looks like a dog got stuck in a tea kettle, and that is funny enough to win against a pickup artist. Match 438, Maiko Minosaur versus Tankjo. And I think there's some girls that come in here and they're like, oh, I'm not until match 438. There's no way he's going to give enough of a shit to notice all of my design flaws. Well, I noticed you, Maiko Minosaur. And you can't just be the human Minosaur. That's not going to work here. And in front of one of your generals, too. No. Tankjo wins, and he is rightfully going to fire you after this. Bye. Match 439, Chozetsushin Deboth versus Evil Spirit Princess Dinas. And the idea behind Chozetsushin is that he is an amalgamation of all of the prehistorical species. The downside of that is that it is so messy and it's so hard to parse what's going on. Dinas, otherwise known in the American as Vipra, is the only human-looking Saima family member, and her armor is so like sick and well done, even though it's not too complicated, which I appreciate. Vipra wins. Match 440, Metal Deathworm versus Real. And Metal Deathworm is kind of like if you took Deathworm from, I believe it was last video, and covered it in metal. And Real is kind of like if you had another Time Ranger monster and you gave it a twin. Metal Deathworm wins, but I'm not impressed. Match 441, Master Org versus Reckless Brain. And yes, this is the same Master Org that was a moist incel for most of Wild Force. And that sucks for him. But luckily, Reckless Brain is an engine with pants. And as much as I love that for him, the overall color design of Master Org is way better. So he will be moving on this day, in this case. Match 442, Trinoid 16, Tao Totsu versus Memory Brain. And number 16, I'm calling him that because I don't want to sound like a sputtering engine every time I say his name, is so close to winning this that I can't stress that enough. But it's the bottom half of him that absolutely ruins it. Like, what weird podium is he, like, standing on? You know what I mean? Memory Boma is very fungal and very DNA-based. I'm a huge D&D nerd, and just to give you kind of a window into that, I'm currently playing a Spore Druid, so I love the covering of, like, fungus all over. It's honestly kind of giving Parasect a little bit. I just always loved that concept. So 16, I wanted more from you, but Memory Boma is going to take it. Match 443, Thorn and Evo versus some Saze Madelojin. Speaking of fungi, I am one. And I like campy outfits. I like a thorn ant with a chef hat and a little uniform to go with that. I think it's really cute. I think it's really funny. Sazemadillogin is half armadillo and half turban shell, which I learned what that is today, which is a surprisingly good combo, but it's still not done as well as I would have liked. Like, I'm not getting armadillo anywhere, you know what I mean? So Thorn Ant is going to win. Match 444, Devil Drill versus Kapila Dogler. And I'm going to be so real with you on this one. These are both awful. Like, mentally, I went back and forth so much that I might as well have flipped a coin. Devil Drill wins based strictly on, like, It's a simple design that was done well. Match 445, Hades Beast Gargoyle versus Daryl. And no, not Daryl from The Walking Dead, although I do hate them both equally. Hades Beast Gargoyle is so intricately done. I think his torso looks both like a saw trap and also the fences being his wings. It's so sick. Gargoyle easily wins here. Match 446, Raiken versus Water Pollution Prince Nigorl Zo-Arelumbra. I decided to leave in more of the mispronunciations of these names because I think I'm hoping that you'll give me some sympathy because of how awful some of these names are to say. Anyway, I do love me some Raiken, but we did just see Raiken very recently, and that's like the evolved form, essentially. And also, Prince Nurgle is so great. Like, the black, the gold, the blue, along with just, like, the general concept. It's so cool to see, like, a robotic theming matched with any sort of, like, historical motif. It's a hard match, but the Prince wins. Match 447, Amazon Megas versus Mysterious Minosaur. And Amazon Megas has very much like a Bic for Women vibe, where this is their like one femme-coded robot, and so that's why it's pink and not black for some reason. And also she's smiling because that's just what girls do, I guess. Anyway, Mysterious Minosaur has some like wacky-ass design inspirations, but overall, there's still something about it that I really like. The color use around the face is good and scary and kind of evokes that like idea that the unknown is supposed to be terrifying and he's the mysterious Minosaur and blah blah blah. He wins. Match 448, Pyrian Kurachek versus Pikarime of the Shakoki-dogu. And I am not normally the biggest fan of dogus. I think like the round shape and the kind of like not super unique design inspirations just make it hard for it to really stand out. But honestly, Pikarime is done really, really well, and I want to give him his flowers. Pyrian Kurachek is exactly fine, but it's just another Deca Ranger monster that really misses the mark for me. So Pikarime is going to win. Match 449, Dryken versus Dormask. And the Moltar subordinates are all fire dragons, and they're all done pretty well. Especially Dryken. I like the way it looks, which is great for a design competition. Except like maybe the shoulders. I could lose those. Dormask is a loser, and taking a picture with one of the Go Rangers doesn't help that. So Dryken wins. Match 450, Rito Mihan Curses versus Tomorezu of the Tsuchinoko. And this is another close match of relatively mid monsters. Tsuchinoko, for those who don't know, is like it's like a yokai, I think. And it's like a snake potato shaped monster. It's also what Dunsparce is based off of. And they both look kind of cute and kind of pathetic in a way that I enjoy. Cursus, the diva, has some very nice color choices. I think the floral vibes are pretty nice to look at. Cursus wins, but like I can't say enough how like just very barely. Match 451, Mechanic Monger versus YY Ganza. Mechanic Monger stands out to me because of just how much detailing went into his chest piece. And normally I would love that, but it doesn't like do anything to elevate his overall design quality. Like, I almost feel bad because it is obviously a lot of work, but it doesn't really improve anything. So, like, what's the point? YY Ganza is the younger of two Speed Demon brothers in Turbo, noticed by the speed on his, like, handkerchief, I guess. He's not overly amazing, but he's better than Mechanic Monger, just a little bit. Match 452, Steel Tiger Mask versus Dime Dogler. And unfortunately for the faction, this is another Dogler that's impossible to really figure out what it's supposed to be. on the other hand, it's interesting to have a tiger mask and then also a steel tiger mask. But I love tigers. I mean, you guys have seen my bare arms enough to know that I love tigers. They both look really cool also, so I'll let it slide. Steel Tiger Mask wins. Match 453, Spirit World Guard Saima Chaos versus Hachidokuler. Ideally, Saima Chaos would be cooler looking, being the gatekeeper to hell. Maybe the camera quality is affecting that, but Hachidokuler takes it, being like half honeycomb, half honey, full cool design. Match 454, Magic Monster versus Yokai Mokumokurin. Magic Monster, who could easily fit in Halloween Town, is fine enough, but like at the end of the day, it's really just a mask. Whereas Mokumokurin is a very cool keyboard warrior. Not that kind. And the little eyes on all of the keys is very cool, and I would say cool enough to take the win in this case. Match 455, Bara Vacuum versus Duran Bosu. And for a monster with so many faces, Bara Vacuum's actual face is such a letdown. This weird like lilac color scheme is not a good one for if you're supposed to be giving like metallic monster. Duran Bosu has crow inspirations, obviously, but what I find really charming about it is all of like the little trinkets that he's stolen are down by his feet. Like, you know, the wind that he's stolen from Bara Vacuum. Match 456, Dodon versus Don Armage. And Don Armage has 4 different looks. One of which is just a cloak. And I would have given the win to him even in that form over this like Admiral Akbar pre-Ozempic looking motherfucker. Match 457, Rhino Evo versus Magnet Ninja Jishakumo. Rhino Evo is another victim of the bad camera syndrome, but from what I can tell, it's pretty serviceable besides the strange cannon coming out of its face/stomach. Jishakumo has some nice coloring, I want to point that out, because it's a good showcase of how you can do the like rusted, faded colors while still having them pop with good contrast. So if there's like one thing I want you guys to take away, if for some reason you're looking to me for design advice, like there are no bad ideas, there is only bad execution. So Jishakumo will be taking the win. Match 458, Cursemonger versus Jet Flying Squirrel. And Jet Flying Squirrel really wins just based on execution. Like the claw detailing and the armor bits all kind of elevate the design, whereas Cursemonger is kind of the opposite. Like he has a cool concept. I think JJK has shown how cool curses can be, but the face and the head look really frumpy and they're not very, very appealing. So Jet Flying Squirrel wins. Match 459, Chibozu versus Western Yokai Dracula. And it's confession time. I love classic movie monsters, and Dracula is no exception to that. I love the detailing that Western Yokai Dracula gives, the rapier, the shoulders, the stitching design, up the sleeves. It's all just like exactly what I would want from like that season's take on the Western monsters. Chibozu is the brother of Chubo, and I do like his design, but Dracula overall just has such a stronger inspiration, has such a stronger delivery, so he will be winning. Match 460, Sumike Jamin versus Torbador, and at this point, I think we all know how I feel about the Jamins, including the fact that you can see their whole stuff. Torbador, which is a fun name, it's another one you should say at home, is the brother of Tagrador, who we saw earlier in the round. And Torbador is the blue version. What a beautiful blue it is. And combining that with bronze is such a like elevated color theory idea. He wins. Match 461, Deadbuller versus Azald. And I'm almost with Deadbuller here. Like, he's baseball themed, which makes sense, but then he's got like one of those like weasel slinky monsters going down his chest. You know, the ones that you get at like Cracker Barrel that has like the little ball that it falls around. It just completely throws it off. Like, I don't, it's not thematically relevant at all from what I can tell. Maybe it's more of like a Japanese baseball thing that I'm not understanding. I don't know. Similarly, the bat would have been good enough, but turning it into like a pickaxe is just confusing to me. Azald is the cuboidal general of the Death Galians, and his different forms are all great, but this like blue gem one is my favorite. He wins. Match 462, Satan Monger versus Anidara Maximoff. And Satan Monger, honestly, is a victim of production quality. All the good concepts are there, but like the faded colors and the face just like hold it back. Anidara is one of two llama brothers, and he has a giant kanabo, which we all know that I love. And I just love the different design elements here. Specifically, I want to highlight the leg warmers in this round, which will be keeping him warm in the winner's circle. Match 463, Thief World versus Debo Harudamon. And this suit is reused from Invisible World. And I think that it fit that concept way better. Harudamon, similarly, is a recoloring of Debo Tangoseku from the same faction. But honestly, the fact that it's like full body and that it is a complete like color palette change is helping it out way more. I think the difference is like Bidoof versus Shiny Bidoof versus like Pawmi, Pawmo, and Pawmot in Generation 9, where people are like, oh, they're just the same Pokemon. You know what I mean? It's supposed to represent spring, and I think the green and pink does that really well, so it'll be springing into the win. Match 464, Lawanda versus Chief Officer Jashu. Jashu isn't bad. In fact, I like the red pottery vibes all over his body. But Lawanda is a genetic mutated human, and I think it does that concept really well. The parts I like to highlight are like the red lines on the torso, like the outlining. It looks so like subtly morbid on like an all white body. I think that's really smart. The zebra stripes on the legs are awesome. He is Lawina, which I'm mad at myself for scripting that. Match 465, Vivi Gorin versus Omega. And Omega has some really cool Olmec, obviously, design inspirations. And I personally love when the Power Rangers design team does their thing, like their cool design thing with other cultures, especially ones that we don't really see a lot of treatment of in pop culture, like Olmec. An example of how not to do this is with the Greek-inspired Vivi Gorin, who has like a melted plastic face and is a loser in more senses than one. Match 466, Gigi Boone versus Devil Fishing. And Gigi Boone is based on a coin purse, and it's one of the turbo monsters that, even though it looks campy, it has some pretty smart design details. The coins on the feet, the coin purse like clasp head. Devil Fishing has potential to be really cool, but A, I can't see the whole body, and B, the head can look a little derpy depending on the angle. So Gigi Boone wins. Match 467, Ant Bazooka versus Loop Shadow. And Ant Bazooka is actually like really, really sick for what it is. Like the black and orange has a good elevation on the relatively simple design concept. I think he could have beaten either of the last match's competitors. Unfortunately for him, he's going up against a Shadow, and a really good one at that, being specifically the magnifying glass Shadow. And all the spike work, like the rounded spikes, are really cool. The one eye instead of the giant magnifying glass is a really nice touch. Loop Shadow wins. Match 468, Bin Bankai versus Earth Vibration Saima Beast Ganamuja. And Ganamuja doesn't have the best photo quality, but I'm a giant fan of elephants, no pun intended. And the earth vibration themes work great for that animal. Bin Bankai is based on bottles, not bins. And he doesn't really do anything for me. Like, I'm not really that excited when I look at him. So, Ganamuja wins. Match 469, Captain Zahab versus 04. And Captain Zahab is the leader of the faction present in Lost Galaxy, which this video is themed around. But he had a much smaller role in the American version. 04 is one of the spy girls. She uses yo-yos and will unfortunately not have enough yos to win against Captain Zahab, who is the most, like, maximalist version of a pirate ship that still looks good. So Zahab wins. Match 470, Budarujin versus Air Pollution Minister Ketanadis. And Ketanadis is the original version of General Crunch. What a name. From RPM. And as the name says, he is the lord of all gaseous pollution. Budarujin is a giant piggy boy, and I love that for him. But I simply couldn't justify him winning, so Ketanadis will win. Match 471, Acha versus Cuervo. And to specify, Acha is the non-baby girl one of the two. He's the more... Actually, I don't know. I don't know if he's I don't know if he's he. I don't know if he's she. It's a robot. I don't know. But what I do know is that they are the one that looks more like a traditional butler. And the fact that they're probably a queer icon based on the way that they're standing. There really isn't anything super crazy going on here. Cuervo is a crow man, and he has some, like, constellation theming like the rest of his season. The green hood is a nice touch to add some character, and so he will be beating Acha. Match 472, Lens Magus versus Dread Redder. Lens Magus isn't bad, but a bunch of eyes don't make for a good design, or even a good vibe. I like the dark blue and the eyes just fine, but Dread Redder is a cool, like, centipede man, and his leg colors are the tassels of his leather jacket. I love that. He's gonna win. Match 473, Cabero Gangan versus Totem Pole Monger. And... this is another one where I don't feel qualified enough to speak on if this is cool cultural representation or if it's offensive. So if there's anyone who does have an opinion on that, I would love to hear it. But personally speaking, I like the aesthetic of totemic design. Just the way, the art style of it all. So looking at it from just a place of art, I know you can't truly separate it from the context, but I'm going to try my best. It is pretty visually appealing. However, Cabero is a wolf man, and I like the little, like, dog collars all over, and the way that the ganglers do shading is very specific with, like, the little vertical lines. It just adds so much texture, and for those reasons, Cabero wins. Match 474, Giant Octopus Monger versus Ikazuchi, and I like how campy yet effective Giant Octopus Monger is. The suckers on the tentacles are very cool. Ikazuchi, meanwhile, looks like a Xenoblade 1 boss in the best way. I love how complex but, like, still mechanical he looks while not being too muddled. That's the nice thing, is, like, when I say that something's complex, it's like a compliment because you were somehow able to do it without it looking like hot garbage, which is really impressive. Ikazuchi wins. Match 475, Presky World versus Tombstone Org. And, welp, Tombstone Org did the thing. He found the win button. He has red and blue flames, so he wins. Just kidding. He will win, but more just because of how, like, stupid of a concept a machine press monster is, especially when it's done like Presky World is. So Tombstone Org wins for a lot of reasons. Match 476, the Ganmel versus Kelpie Minosaur. Another match Another L for the monsters. Kelpie Minosaur, besides the obvious inspiration, has some fun little details in the way that they did the fin, the hair, the hooves, all of the animalistic elements elevated much higher than it should be, so he wins. Match 477, Crabcanth versus Dark Merchant Biznella. And Crabcanth seems to be able to change between vehicular and attack mode, with the vehicular mode shown here. Overall, it's pretty unique looking, and especially among the Canths, I like that it's not black, but in a way that's more intentional than like the pink robot we saw earlier. Biznella has a lot of things going on, and yet they all work really well. If you can rock a Victorian collar without it looking bad, especially with being a robot, then that's high marks. I love that for you. I also love the black, yellow, and red color palette. So overall, Biznella wins. Match 478, Hades Dread Knight Zudo versus Ikasazuri. Zudo is one of the 3 Dread Knight siblings, and I like that even though he's a Hell Knight, they didn't let that restrict their color palette. I like that they're using gold and white, which is more traditionally saved for angels, because when you combine it with that red and that dragon kind of vibe, it looks really awesome. Ikosazuri is a rare miss for the Akayashi faction. I appreciate the face and the sharp elements, but it just doesn't work very well for me, so Zudo wins. Match 479, Azimodoro versus Pipe Bankai, and Azimodoro has a cool squid spear, but honestly, the part that works the most for me is the, like, white parts of his body with, like, the green little bamboo shoots coming out of it. Pipe Bankai is a very effective design as well. I think the main thing holding it back is the lack of color variety, so Azimodoro is going to win. Match 480, Propla versus Babu. And ooh, we've got a battle of generals today. We saw his tank best friend Kurara earlier in the video, and now we've got Propla, the propeller org. And it's like a boat propeller, not a plane propeller, if that wasn't obvious. Babu is famously one of Zed and Rita's generals, and despite the name, he's less of a baboon and more of a vampire. I think the issue with the propeller org is that he's just got like way too much going on, and it isn't done superbly well. Like, I think I would have gotten propeller even if you didn't show like the 50 different types of propellers on one body. Babu is a cool flying monkey / vampire guy, and I like how he also has additional personality aspects in his design as well, like the monocle, like the way that his uniform looks. Babu wins. Match 481, Gagajin versus Dwarf Minosaur. So we've seen Gagajin in an earlier monster as a fusion, but I think they lost the thread a bit with this guy. In the concept art, he has a more like vibrant purple and bigger eyes that I think make him look cuter, more like a Mothra kind of vibe, and they didn't really deliver very well on both of those. One of my favorite aspects of the Dwarf Minosaur is the sunken-in face. It adds a layer of sinisterness to his design that really just takes it to the next level, and that next level includes a win, which Dwarf Minosaur will be getting. Match 482, Fairy Minosaur versus Hades' Ultimate God Drake. And this is the Fairy Minosaur in the same way that the giant things in Evangelion are angels. It's intricate and it's pretty, but it doesn't hold up to the standards that the Minosaurs have typically. Ultimate God Drake is one of the 10 gods, and Magiranger being the most violent one. And he has really cool skulls on his sides. I just love the overall like skeletal armor design. Match 483, Boss Ironclaw versus Stingray Nezare. And the bar isn't super high to beat guys wearing clothes, that whole category, like Boss Ironclaw. But one of the prerequisites is you've got to give me something to get behind from a design perspective. And unfortunately for him, Stingray Nezare is not doing enough of that. Mostly due to the muted colors, once again. So Boss Ironclaw wins. Match 484, Sakaiki versus Sakuramochi World. And Sakaiki is based on Battle Fever J, which is when all of the different Rangers were different countries. Specifically, this one is based off of the Japanese flag, which you can kind of tell, but I think it would be better as seen from above. Sakuramochi World is another one of these ones where it's not unique besides one little thing. In this case, it's the cherry blossom sticker that they put like right on his head, which is not enough for me. I find it almost insulting, in fact. So Sakaiki wins. Match 485, Flower Ninja Ron versus Great King Bakawas. And Flower Ninja Ron is the purple one, and it's based on the purple orchid flower, which I think is really pretty. I love the design of her overall. There's very little flaws here. Unfortunately for her, she's going up against Bawakis, who is cool as fuck with the giant diamond, all of the like intricate sharp metals combined to make a very intimidating final design for the season that he's in. So Bawakis wins, but I do feel bad for Flower Ninja Ron. Match 486, Hades Machine Golem versus A Squad Blue. And this is the first of a few A Squad members we'll be seeing kind of near the end of this video. And he is the only one with a non-human face, having spider eyes and walrus teeth. The premise of SPD is that the main Rangers are the B Squad, and the A Squad has gone missing, later turned evil, blah, blah, blah. But because they're, I believe, American only, they reused the in-space helmets with a different design. So all of that is to say that A Squad Blue will make it into the next round, just kind of barely over this like rare miss for an Infertia monster. But Hades Machine Golem just isn't very good. Match 487, Trinoid 4, Baku Dandelion versus Yama Uba. And as we go through this tournament, we're going to see more and more hard matches, especially when we get to the higher rounds. This is one of them in the first round. For one of them, we have a bomb, dandelion, and lion mixture that expertly displays all of those things. Yama Uba reminds me of the villain from the Sinister franchise, with practical effects from top to bottom being done very well. It's really heartbreaking for me to say. It's a hard pick, but Yama Uba wins. Match 488, Bongen versus Professor Yugami. And Bongen reminds me of Vilgax from Ben 10, from the tentacles to the black and red armor, but like an elevated adult Vilgax. Like he's grown up a little bit. Yugami is a guy with an eye patch and bad white hair, so he loses because why would you show up here looking like that? Match 489, Spellmaster Pierre versus Dora Minotauros, and another good match. Minotauros is a really cool take on that kind of monster. I like how they did all of the construction on his body. I was really close to saying that Pierre would be the loser. But I really want you to take a good look at all of the little details. He is a flytrap based monster, but they're not very overt about it. Like, you can see little hints all over, but it's not like they didn't just give him like a fly head, you know? So he's got like red eyes on his shoulders, he's got mouths on his shoes, and all over his fingers he has those like little hair triggers that fly traps use to collapse in on themselves. Pierre wins very barely, like by the depth of the hair trigger from his little hands. Match 490, Quintuplet Yana Santa versus the Shitinjoji brothers, and this is the Debo monster that is winter based. So we've gotten 3 of the seasons this time, which is pretty cool. I believe we might have seen summer in a different video already, but if we haven't, I'll make sure to note it. No, we've definitely seen Summer in a previous video. Anyway, there's 5 of the Yana Santas. That's why they're quintuplet, blah, blah, blah. The only difference is that they have, like, a number sticker on their chimney head. But quality always wins over quantity here because the Shuten Doji brothers are complementary, not identical. And that's what I love about them. They're Oni, but they each have, like, a very distinct color palette and vibe, so they win. Match 491, Left Hand Monster versus Tornado, Sima Beast, Tornadius. While Tornadius isn't the most incredible bat monster I've ever seen, I still really like the armor and the colors that he has going on, especially when we look at the quote-unquote left hand monster, which seems to be both hands, actually, kind of doing, like, one of these things. And he can't even do his name right, which I think is shameful. So Tornadius wins. Match 492, Ninja Wolf Beasts Fengel versus Sun World. And at this point, we've seen the Sun World design at least once, probably twice, and it doesn't hit the same that many times, especially because it's from a season. Here's what really bothers me. If it was just a head-only season, but they had unique heads every time, then great. If it was just that they reused outfits sometimes, but they did the recoloring, then that would be fine. What annoys me about this season specifically is that and actually it's 2 seasons that are back-to-back that do this. They reuse the head, don't change the colors at all, and then just call it a different monster. And I'm like, girl, no, it's not a different monster. This is the same as Noon World is, and Midday World, or whatever the other one is. It's sad, I think. Anyway, Fengel is actually 3 different wolves, and they all look really cool compared to the same sun monster that we've seen 3 times. The Ninja Beasts win. Match 493, Kamala Zarujin versus Hades Beastman Gaston the Thief. And see, this is a good example, I think, of how to do the, fusion monsters well. Because Chameleon and Monkey wouldn't necessarily be my first choice of a combination. But when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense. They fulfill similar ecological roles. The elements look good together. So it fits, and it works well. There's good contrast to kind of accentuate the design. It just works well. Gaston the Thief is not as hot as someone named Gaston should be, and is not as cool as a thief monster should be. So Kamala Zarujin wins. Match 494, Rainbow Mask versus Mesagog, and I really love Rainbow Mask, actually. The little gay boy, and I think he could have had a solid chance of winning if his whole body had that same cool rainbow design. Mesagog can look a little goofy at times, and admittedly, he's mostly just a head, but I really appreciate the practical effects that go into his face and the kind of physics that have to work for him to actually automate. And his bodysuit is, pretty well done. So Mesagog wins. Match 495, Nephyla versus Word Processor Armadillo. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm getting Armadillo from this guy. And I'm not even going to touch the concept of why on earth you think a word processor is a good monster design concept. I don't even know what a word processor is, to be honest with you. Nephyla has some cool purple, white, and black geometry going on. I love all the little stuff, like how her sleeves end in little spikes that just kind of add it next to level. Nephyla wins. Match 496, Devil Spider versus the Jigen, and I'm going to be so for real with you. Devil Spider is something I could come up with in a few hours if I really had to. If I had some cardboard, some markers, some stencils. I could make Devil Spider really, really quickly. This is another one of those situations where it's just going to depend on what you value more, execution or effort. Because Devil Spider is a simpler design that is more well executed. And the Jigen, they obviously put more effort into it, and they tried a bunch of different things, but I don't think those things really worked very well. And so I don't know. I think Devil Spider wins in this case, which might upset the like one person who watches my videos and has opinions on what I say. Match 497, Hades Ultimate God Sleipnir versus Yokai Itenmomen. And Itenmomen is really cool. It has like pretty like Demogorgon vibes with some like Labyrinth, the movie, mixed in there. But Sleipnir is like next level. As all of you know by now, I'm a big sucker for good color combinations. And I'm also a big sucker for good color combinations that I wasn't expecting. They're not the obvious ones. Dark gray and icy blue is such a good one. It's kind of giving like Lich King from WoW. Sleipnir wins. Match 498, A Squad Red versus Notch Tooth Monster. And A Squad Red, otherwise known as Charlie, is the only member of the A Squad that we know the name of, and I believe the only one that talks like at all. So, good for her for being the first female Red Ranger, I guess. But that's basically the only notable thing about her. And Notch Tooth Monster essentially fucked himself over with a really bad design. So Charlie is going to win, even though she's just a girl wearing clothes. Match 499, Devil Dogler versus Fence Shadow. And it's a shame because right when the Doglers like get somebody cool, they're about to get smacked down by the majesty that is Fence Shadow. Like in the waiting room for the tournament or whatever, I can literally imagine the Doglers being like, okay, like we feel pretty confident about Devil Dogler. He's going to be our heavy hitter. And then he goes up against like just an easy shutout. Like there is no way that Fence Shadow is getting defeated by a Dogler, regardless of who it is. He's designed like a cathedral of iron frames. It's so like immaculately well done that it just makes me curious about the actual construction of all of this stuff. Like, how did they even do this? And stuff like that makes me excited is going to get you a win almost every time. And here we are, match 500, Beth versus A Squad Yellow. And Beth is one of twin handmaidens that serve Deathmark. And although they have a very cool role in the show as like the bumbling assistants, like kind of giving Team Rocket vibes, A Squad Yellow has the more interesting design for me. It's just barely winning over poor Beth, who I do feel bad for. I don't know if we've seen Bella yet. I think we probably did, but I don't remember, man. It's been like 5 months. Anyway, that was the video. That was round 500, and I had a great time today. I hope that you did as well. Once again, like and subscribe if you made it to this part, which, based on the YouTube analytics, not very many of you have. So, good for you if you actually did it. In addition, once again, I hope to get the next one out faster, and we'll just see if that happens. I also think I'm going to try and do like a smaller bracket breakdown every once in a while, just to kind of like keep the upload speed up, give you guys something to watch, even if it's not like the bigger projects like this one. So yeah, I love you all. But wait, I'm sure you're thinking, you said this was a Lost Galaxy video, and I haven't seen any Lost Galaxy attempts at a reference or anything. And my response to you is that I thought about doing a fun outfit for Lost Galaxy. I thought about doing a fun reference for Lost Galaxy. And as a gay man, there's only one thing from Lost Galaxy that I feel like is superbly iconic. And so we're gonna recreate the famous Leo scene with this beautiful red shirt right here. And this is my only red shirt that I feel like wasting, so this will be a one take kind of thing. All right. Bye.